is Jacqui Cooper with the Blockchain Legal Institute and CryptoMom2. I would like to thank everyone for hopping on this show, as well as to remind you to definitely like and subscribe so that way you can stay in contact as other wonderful guests are invited onto the show. Today, we have the Nordic Blockchain Association on, and we're going to be talking about how individuals and businesses can expand their cross-border operations, especially if you're in the United States or any other location. You really do need to think about the fact that we are a global community, and there's a lot of wonderful spaces that you can go to do business, as well as to get education. So today I have my guest on, Jakob. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. I'm doing great, and really pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to you. So a happy camper.
Yeah. So I know for me, my career has not been straight and narrow, and I'm curious to share with those that are watching as well as listening to the audio side. How did you get into the blockchain world? I mean, I've been in blockchain now for about 9 years, and it was not something that I even knew about. But how did you step into this space? And then also, how did you end up being part of the association?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. I think, everyone got some kind of special stories on how they ended up in it. And I think for me, it started out on personal interests on various different topics. I kind of liked the thoughts about decentralizing without even understanding what it actually was, right? So when the papers was created and different Boston discussion was going out there, I thought this was an interesting way of looking at life, or in general, the way society was initially. So I kind of got a little bit dragged into that. Didn't really find the technical principle that interesting at all. Then through my trade, I'm educated as an auditor, and as well did a minor in law. So all been working as a CFO. Something with that ledger technology, I found that extremely interesting because at the end of the day, when you're a CFO, back in the day, 10 years ago, it was about historical things, right? Make sure the salary is done, reporting, compliance. And I spent 99% of my time and my team's time on making sure we had invoices, right? And bookings, and then we couldn't find a transaction where it was actually going. So the whole ledger thing interested me back, I would say 10 plus years ago. So kind of looked into the technology from my accounting principle. So we spent some time on actually thinking, could we do something here from a bookkeeping perspective? So spend some time on researching that, and a little bit professional, but more of just private interest. Then I had some clients that was working in the industry, looked a little bit more into it, and then I didn't really find the ICO or initial token, what it was used for, quite interesting. So we looked into doing some ICOs, but kind of backed out of the industry, I would say, because it became too much capital gain. And I think it was I would say a great tool that the first version was how can you raise capital extremely fast. And as a CFO that been raising capital for multiple years, I found it interesting, but I didn't think the model makes a ton of sense, like in the early days, because there wasn't accountability into it. You could raise something with a token or how to release, but I mean, there was nothing that you actually have to deliver on it, right? So, but then in 17, I got more engaged from a professional perspective as well. So joined a US-based advisory firm who were advising larger client on how to implement blockchain strategy, and more from how do you make it operational. So we looked into, for a couple of years, we helped those clients primarily in supply chain, cross-border transactions, how do you interact as an international company in the insurance industry? I mean, expense claims. So a little bit more taking the strategy and all the different things you can do, but how can you actually provide shareholder value? That means extra revenue or cost saving activity. So I kind of fall in love in the industry again. And then in 19, the two partners at the fund, I helped them create a venture fund. So since 19 and until say last year or the year before, was partner at a venture fund, Boston-based, but I was working in Europe due to the pandemic. And we've been operating for the first fund, I would say 3-4 operational years will be deployed and invested in 60 plus blockchain-based companies, and investing primarily like up the stack kind of strategy. So really focusing on the good protocols, the good middlewares. And then of course, was there a good DApp out there? And then in that work of line, I mean, it was hard for me to kind of, the Nordic, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on in the Nordic. We have some great like mega DAO, right? I mean, and chain analysis, and we have a lot of like, I would say, important companies for the whole ecosystem that was created in the Nordic, but it wasn't really an ecosystem. So some friend of mine have been since, let's say, the early days, meeting up in different bars talking about blockchain. I didn't really find it that interesting because it was a lot about how can you pay, but they established back in 2017 an organization called Nordic Blockchain Association, which was a nonprofit, volunteer, community-driven association. I joined at the board level back in, I would say, 2021, and then when the fund we were done deploying, I was just like, that's annoying that from a Nordic perspective, we don't have a strong enough ecosystem. I think we have all the talent. We got the universities. We have a thriving startup community in general. But I was annoyed that from an investment perspective, I couldn't really justify that the Nordic was a good place to actually deploy a fund at, right? So from a personal perspective, I was like, I'm ready to join, more active. So I became the CEO almost 1.5 years ago. And we were a bunch of people that really just wanted to do a different, little bit more long-term perspective. So we started out taking this great organization, which hundreds of people have spent endless of hours building up, and are now heading into what NBA is today. I mean, we are the largest Nordic, I would say Baltic as well, partnership, association, but meaning that we work quite close with all the different ecosystem. We do that in I would say 2 different vertical strategy, to put in that manner, right? We have our ongoing work, which is manifest into steering committees, 3 different steering committees, one for legal, finance, and best practice, where we have cross-border interaction. So members across the region that's working on these initiatives, you have to write there what the best practice. What we try to do is we want to highlight all the good use cases. Industry finance, which is my, of course, big interest. How can we create a good interaction so we can actually have a better startup community? We can attract, both educate local VCs and investors on why this is a good sector, but as well showcasing the rest of the world. So this is our ongoing red thread in all our work, is we want to create, that's why we're here. We want to advocate for blockchain can be used for a lot of good things. And to have that, let's say, mass adoption, what everyone is talking about, you need to make sure there's finance, there's legal, and you highlight the good use cases out there that are actually doing a difference. We had a little bit chat prior to the call about sustainability. I mean, you can use the technology to do carbon credit trading on a fair and transparent way, right? You can do it for all those ESG reporting that's now being implemented in the EU. I mean, if you do that on chain, it's always a data in, but at least as soon as it's in the system, I mean, it's a lower cost, it's better transparency. So we're trying to work, and that's what we do on an ongoing basis. All these great bunch of people who were volunteering and spending a lot of time in NBA. So that's our ongoing one vertical. And then the other one is that we do, as you can see there, monthly meetups. So we do a monthly meetup. We had one last week here in Copenhagen on MiCA and the road to implementation of MiCA. So we take out all our learnings at the steering committee and make them tangible so the community can actually benefit from it. So that means monthly meetups, so people engage, webinars as well. And then we've got a yearly conference, which is now the 6th. We didn't do one during the pandemic, but since 2017, we'll be doing a yearly conference where we kind of bring together all the know-how, all the great speakers, all the great network that we have. We cater it into different themes, different topics, and then we invite a lot of great people to come and share and get educated. And this year, as you can see right there, it's going to be in Copenhagen this year as well. We try not to go large I mean, we want to do impact, not go large. I mean, there's a lot of conference here in Europe where, I mean, at least at their presentation material is 10,000 or 20,000. We rather just want to get the right people in the same room and help them facilitate interaction so they can go out and move the needle. So this year, I think we're going to be around 700, depends a little bit on space, and again, work on specific topics. So it's not just a place where you come and get a business card. It is a place where you can come and interact with people that actually is relevant for you, or if you want to learn something, we ensure there's a good track where you can learn something about it. Because for us, we're catering for the ecosystem and are the facilitator for the ecosystem. But one of our greatest responsibilities is to make sure we can interact with the community outside of, let's say, the little tribe we have created here, if you like blockchain or Web3, right? So we want to make sure we can interact with policymakers, with larger corporations. So at its essence, NBA is volunteer driven. We all have the different reasons to be here, but our goal and objective is to facilitate a great ecosystem so we can spread the knowledge of blockchain and what that can do for good for the society. So that's I wouldn't say short introduction, but let's say in between long and short introduction of me and NBA.
No, I think it's great. I know I'm scrolling. For those that are on the audio side, definitely hop on over to the YouTube side. But, you know, in terms of like the community partners, you can definitely see the list of names to include, you know, the Blockchain Legal Institute but other names here, you know, that are just really very large and impactful. You know, I know that we've been connected with the Nordic Blockchain Association since last year, and there have been a number of individuals who are part of your group who have been both speakers at our events as well as just advisors on different topics. So it's really, I think it's really important for businesses that are stepping into this space, meaning looking at cross-border type of operations, to look at what the Nordic Blockchain Conference and the community has to offer. If someone was to try to decide what, you know, there are US businesses who are obviously listening to our conversation. People hear about Bermuda, they hear about other locations. What should they know about the Nordic community, and why they should be thinking about maybe either incorporating there or, you know, navigating over and doing business? Tell us a little bit more about the that whole area and how it's friendly to business development.
I think, I mean, we'll always try to do when we speak to international partners or potential members, we try to define why are you actually, what are you trying to obtain, right? And I think that's the classic, what is your, let's say, go-to-market strategy, a purpose of looking into Europe, I would say, right? So, and we're not just representing Scandinavia, Balticum, the Nordic region. So if we divide it into different people that would find the region interesting, if you're a larger corporation, as an example, the Nordic community is, I mean, we are luckily at a good place. It's high buying power. It's opinionated. So being a part of the Scandinavian market as a larger player is in most strategies, right? Because it's good to be in this region for various different reasons. But rather when we talk about, like, let's say, emerging technologies, Denmark is by far not the best play for tax or for income or mass production or stuff like that. At least, I mean, in some kind of capacity, it's a knowledge center. We have this welfare model, which we are proud of, which means there's free healthcare, there's free school. So that means we kind of call, like, the work-life balance, kind of like if you go to the Nordic, the whole reason for a lot of the values that's created in the Nordics, that you want to make sure that business and private life is actually interacted. That means as well, if you want to move fast and want to have a large market, people often go to Southern Europe, which makes a ton of sense. But we see more heavier technology companies where you need to both attract talents. You need to think more about just, could you give a higher salary, right? What does it actually look like to move to a foreign country? I lived in multiple different countries, and I love all of them, but we kind of tend to be a lot of people that kind of go back to, okay, when you have a specific age, it's about a good society. It's about have the opportunity for transparency. It's easy to operate a company in Denmark or Scandinavia in general. So I think there's a lot of these. We don't want to try to compete on some of the things that's obviously better somewhere else. But what we can see is that a lot of large companies have emerged from the Nordic. You have, as I mentioned earlier on, like you got Chainalysis, you got MakerDAO, you got Cefello, you got Firi, you got Reality Plus. You have a lot of large company who managed to basically go in this environment, create it. And then, of course, when you want to scale, you can always scale in various different regions. But having an HQ in the Nordic region is something we have seen historically really have worked. And that means as well, Stockholm, Oslo for ages being like a hub for both startup, but financial centrum as well. Of course, it's not London, it's not Berlin, but it is quite some powerhouses in that capacity. There's quite close to regulators, right? I mean, we started out sitting at Finansforbundet, which would be the FSA, right? So we have great partnership with them, everything. There's a lot of sandbox activities going on, even if I would say legislation could be a lot better and a lot more transparency, but you see in the Baltic region as well, they're quite proactive on technology, right? I think that the Nordic now finally realized that this is a technology age we're going into, so you need to foster good opportunities in the technology sphere. So, and there's a lot of other things as well. But I think the main thing is if a larger corporation, it would be a good place to start as a HQ because it's easy to start company. It's the business environment is quite transparent and there's quite a short way to the legislature, right? So that's what we often see makes a ton of sense.
So if someone was interested, would they contact your association and then you would refer them over to someone that could help them, or how would they do that?
So the way that we operate is that we see ourselves as we don't want to interact with I would say the commercial industry that's going on right now. We rather want to be the guidance to point them the right direction. So that's why we always have a, I would say, introduction call with a potential a new member. We would advocate that they become a member of NBA. It's a small fee per year, and then we will help them be engaged with the community. We wouldn't do any consultancy, go to market, but we would know the right people to talk to in the industry because again, hundreds of people have been volunteering in the organization. They are now in all the various different big players out there, and we are kind of like quite friendly with everyone on a social matter as well. So for us, it's more helping as well the Nordic companies who are helping external companies coming in. So we kind of see ourselves as the gateway where we sit down and help map a plan, not a go-to-market, but just saying, if you're looking into this, if you want to hire talent, we know the different university hubs and organization, we can point you in that direction. If you want to have a good location to sit, I mean, as mentioned, where we're sitting right here, we've got Bitcoin Switch, we've got Coinify, we've got quite a lot of large players. We could tell you what office to go in. We kind of say that we are kind of a knowledge platform where we kind of can help you get a good start, right? But more concrete task, we would know the lawyers, we would know them, but we rather just want to say, this is a good friend of the house, please interact, and of course, highlight some of our members.
So for everyone who's listening, I definitely will have the links below in the blog. So that way, as you have questions, you can definitely reach out to the Nordic Blockchain Association, or, you know, if there are other questions that you have that you would like Blockchain Legal also to kind of answer, that's why we're both here. Any last minute thoughts that you'd like to share with those that were who might be listening to our conversation?
I think overall, because you asked a little bit about like the Nordic, right? I think I want to highlight that what we can see that's going on now in the blockchain industry is legislation is now finally catching up, right? And we have kind of, let's say, a vibrant environment where we can see a lot of bigger players are now understanding that there's tokens and trading, but there's a blockchain ledger technology, which is extremely important. So we have seen a lot of initiative as well from the public where they're looking into supply chain design, digital passports. So we see there's quite a good environment and a sentimental in the market right now. If you're not just, I mean, Web3 have always been here, like vibrant, but now we can see more larger established players. We had represented for all the national bank at our last conference talking about digital currency. So we can see there's quite a lot of interesting things happening. So please reach out, and we're happy to point you in the right direction. At the end of the day, we're here to serve the community and connect them with the rest of the world. So we're happy to help in what capacity we can.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know that we've, you know, in terms of our events and what we've been doing, the members within the Nordic Blockchain Association have always been helpful and has always provided some very interesting conversations in terms of the directions that our community is going. Because again, laws and business directions in different parts of the world are tracking differently. So, you know, it's interesting to see different regions and to see those that are ahead and both supportive of the businesses and then those that still need to catch up. So the Nordic community is definitely ahead of the game in terms of being proactive and supportive of the innovation that's within the community. So everyone, you know, who's listening, I want to say thank you for hopping on. There'll be definitely more individuals and representatives from the Nordic Blockchain Association on a lot of our calls and events. So definitely we'll be learning from them. So everyone, as I always say at the end of all my talks, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We're so interconnected. We're all part of one world, and today more than ever. So everyone, have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.